Hello, folks. It's me, Kerbanaut here. Finally, after a very long time of not doing stuff, because I have been very busy. I know I say this every time, but more so this time than ever. Like, my goodness, I've been busy. But what I've not been doing is actually playing KSP. And on that note, let's actually play Let's actually play KSP with another episode of Let's Actually Play KSP. That's Kerbal Space Program. Of course, what else would I be playing? So yes, this is I believe episode 14 of the series. We've managed to get up to this point, so let's keep going. I want to continue this episode. I want to continue this series and get stuff going. So in this episode, we're going to be doing a few kind of different things. First off, is we're going to be launching off a probe to the lovely little planet Eeloo. It is the furthest away planet, and some would argue the hardest to reach celestial body. However, I think probably the hardest to reach celestial body is probably one of Jules' moons. But then again, I'm not too sure on that. I'd have to look at some Delta V charts, but I do think some of Jules' moons are pretty hard to reach. So kind of one of the main things about this Eeloo probe is it has to have a lot of Delta V. And so we're having to launch up in kind of two sections. It also helps me just to keep the launchers, quite small, because I really can't be bothered building huge, massive launchers and then having to deal with that kind of, deal with that stuff. I'd rather build just smaller, simpler rockets that can launch up in parts and then assemble them in space, because I like assembling things in space. So yeah, you just saw we launched up that first half of the Eeloo probe that we're going to be sending off. That's the kind of the science kind of area, and then we have to launch up the kind of tug. I keep saying I call it a tug, but tug implies that it's going to be pulled. It's actually going to be pushed by this craft. We're launching up with the standard Socrates lifter, and we are going to launch this up into this same plane and all that sweet lovely stuff. We've got a nice lovely little rendezvous set up right from launch, which means we don't have to do a whole bunch of orbital ballet and waste a lot of time getting into the correct orbit and waiting it out and saving fuel, when we can simply just launch correctly in the right time, in the right plane, and just get a straight up rendezvous with this Eeloo probe. Now, you'll see here, what I've done is I've effectively just got two little RCS blocks on either end of this, I'm going to call it a module, and these two little blocks are going to be, they're not going to be, they are being used to tug around the pusher, which is always handy. So we eject one of them, and then we use the other one once we're lined up to just push in and get our solid dock on, so that these two spacecraft become one and are ready to peruse, I suppose peruse is the right word, the skies and explore the vast cosmos. After we've joined them together, we of course ditch the first little RCS block. We then hop over and we decouple the second RCS block before hopping over to that and using its RCS power and its lovely reaction control thrusters. That's what they're called, aren't they? Yeah. We ditch it into I want to say the ocean, but I'm not sure if it's going to be going into the ocean. We just kind of leave it there. Of course, we do have to return the upper stage of the Socrates lifter back to Kerbin. It is designed to be reusable, so returning it is, it would be a shame if we didn't return it, and so we have to bring it back. This landing was actually quite nice. It turned out we had enough fuel. I didn't need to use the parachutes. So we come down and then I just use the fuel. Like any normal landing, it has a brilliant thrust to weight ratio on this stage, so it means we can really just land it like a normal, landing on the moon or something. Now, I did lose some footage here. We had to, burn with the Eeloo probe to get it out to its Eeloo orbit. Unfortunately, I think either A, my hard drive corrupted, or I just didn't press record at the right time, and so basically I lost the footage showing this Eeloo probe burning out. I say burning, technically it's just shooting ionized gas out of the back end of it to propel it forward. Anyway, because of the xenon thrusters, the ion thrusters, it was able to do that burn really efficiently, and it got me out to Eeloo, and now we set up its lovely little encounter. Now we have to hop over to Chroma 1. Chroma 1 is going to be arriving at its destination. Now, it's not actually going to Eve, if you remember, and you can probably tell by the size of this craft. If I was sending something to Eve, I would want to bring my Kerbals back, and I would need a much bigger lander, meaning because I would want to bring them back, and anything bringing back from Eve is just horribly expensive and hard to make. So we're leaving that for another time. What we are going to do is we are going to do a whole bunch of little sciencey things around Eve, get some orbital science around Eve, which is going to allow us to advance in the tech tree. And we're also going to, take in the view of, the lovely expansion packs that we have installed here. And we're also going to visit Gilly, because this is why we're here. We're not just here for some orbital science, or even for the views, although the views in and of themselves are brilliant and amazing. And, in sandbox mode, it's all about the views, it's all about just looking at it, and it just, and having that sensation of, I've done it, yes. But we're not playing in sandbox mode right now. I believe we're playing in what is classed as science mode, although this version of the game, it was career mode. Of course, this was like three versions ago now. But don't worry, we're going to get to that at the end of this episode. We're going to fix some stuff. Anyway, we do a little bit of dancing around the cockpits, dancing around the ship, EVA, and we get back in. What's that you say? Would you want to see some more sciencey things? Well, we end up doing some more sciencey things, actually, and we get a little bit of that. We transmit a little, we keep a little, do some mystery goo, all the good sciencey things around Eve, and that's lovely. But perhaps that is not enough for you, and so I've put together a little super sped up thing. So yeah, this is the stuff that you don't see. This is the stuff behind the scenes. So yeah, let's just not watch all of that and skip ahead to the point where we're actually going in for our Gilly encounter. Now, basically what I'm doing here is I'm going in for an aero brake around Eve to bring my apoapsis down. However, I overdo it a little, and so we have to then push our apoaps back up, but before we do that we have to do our inclination change. Now we've got lots of these, lots of xenon gas, and so we might as well use that. So we use the xenon gas to change our inclination to match Gilly's. We then use it to push our apoaps just a little bit higher before realizing that we have a plane change to do with the MXS, or the MEV, depending on what you want to call it. It is the MOHO exploration vehicle, or it's the MOHO thing that we're sending out, the manned MOHO mission. So it has to do a big plane change to get into an encounter with MOHO. So we set that up. It's a really long burn, but because of the way we've designed this craft, the engine on the lander is actually making the burn, meaning that we don't have to bring along another engine to use as a tug, meaning that we save a lot of weight in kind of equipment and thrusting stuff. Which means we don't have to use as much fuel to get there. So not only is it a smaller, cheaper craft, but it also takes less time and, just generally is less of a hassle. So that's a little kind of smart thing. If you've got a nuclear engine on your craft that you're going to be taking somewhere, just use that. Don't use a tug unless, of course, you just feel like showing off, in which case, go for it. You do whatever you want to do. That's the beauty of KSP. Anyway, you see there we set up our encounter and got it nice and close to Moho. Now we have to hop back over to Chroma 1, which is making some final corrections to get its encounter with Gilly. Now the encounter with Gilly, of course, is very tenuous, it's very small, as with all encounters with Gilly. So, you know, we have to be very careful about it. Now, one thing I did not anticipate was the amount of delta V is required to actually get into orbit around Gilly. Now, if you watch the fuel bar as we do this crossfade, you'll notice that we had fuel and now we don't have fuel. And you see these two little things that I put in there right at the very beginning, like tons of episodes ago, or a few episodes ago at least. I put that in there just to be able to push the docking port forward. I didn't think of it as fuel. I was really just I didn't consider that at all as fuel. But it turns out that me putting that in there has actually saved me from crashing into Gilly. From flying away from Gilly or not getting our encounter. It actually took an absolute ton of delta V to get us into orbit around Gilly, and it was kind of scary. Last minute, you can see we literally have like 2 units of fuel left around Gilly, and of course we do a whole sciencey thing. That was 5 seconds of science madness right there. You've got to love it. And then we put our lovely Omni Kerman. Is it Omni Kerman? Into the little lander, powered by RCS, of course. There's no point to have liquid fuel engines on a lander going to Gilly. And then we just slide out of Chroma 1 and then use our RCS just to boost us away rather nicely. Now, we do have a lot of linear, I believe they're called linear thrusters, on the bottom of the ship. That is because, of course, we do kind of have to use it as, you know, almost like a rocket, so it has to have more power on the bottom so that it can land properly. Though, saying that, it probably wouldn't have made that much of a difference. It's just more handy to have a whole bunch of thrusters pointing one direction, so I can treat it as if it's an engine. Now, with Gilly, when we're landing on Gilly, one of the main things is just kind of point towards it and burn towards it. Now, usually that's, you know, a really inefficient thing to do, and indeed it's inefficient here, but the fact of the matter is, if you don't do it, if you just burn retrograde, your orbital velocity is going to be so slow that you're going to be spending, you know, just weeks and weeks in orbit around Gilly, just trying to land and coming in so slowly. And in reality, it's going to take you so long sitting there pressing your keys, or not, just waiting, time warping to get you to Gilly, and you know, it's just a waste of time. And I kind of wanted to speed things along, so a little bit of inefficiency is a small price to pay for a large amount of fun and not having to sit around for hours on end trying to land on Gilly the slow and efficient way. Anyway, we do bring the lovely little RCS powered lander down. You can see its shadow in the background there. This is sped up dramatically. If we slow down to, this is still at 2 times speed. We're coming in, now remember, this is 2 times speed. This isn't, you know, a normal speed. This is still quite fast. We're coming in so slowly here, you know, docking speeds. We then have to use our RCS to actually push us into the ground on Gilly, because if we don't do that, we'll just bump off the surface and fly off into kind of some weird parabolic orbit that's going to come and, you know, hit against Gilly again, and, you know, it'll be a pain. So we actually have to burn towards Gilly. Of course, we get out and we do our lovely little scientific data and plant our flag, because flag planting is the thing to do in KSP. Ever since they were introduced, I've loved flags, and I've even made my own little flag right there. What are we going to put on this flag, you may ask? Well, we put "Finally we got here." Now we need to call for some backup, and some fuel, and some snacks. And I spell snacks wrong, so I go back and spell it correctly. Which is, you know, you should do that, because spelling, yeah. Anyway, we take a second look at it just to make sure all that spelling is right, and then we return to our spacecraft and just hop on, grab the ladder, and oh, we miss, and it seems our spaceship is floating away without us. This, of course, is a testament to Gilly's low gravity. You know, people have, you know, thought, oh, you should give asteroids, you know, gravity because, you know, it's realistic and whatnot. But in reality, you look at the size of Gilly. Gilly's pretty big in comparison to an asteroid. You know, it's much bigger than your, class E's, I can't remember what the biggest class of asteroid is, but it's much bigger than that, you know. And it barely has any gravity. You know, you take a jump and you're practically in orbit. I mean, you look here, I've used RCS for, you know, just several seconds, pushing directly up, and I'm already on an escape trajectory. Anyway, with the, you know, whole amount of RCS that we have on board, we managed to rendezvous with Chroma 1 once again and come in for that docking, which originally was actually quite hard, but over time I've kind of gotten used to this, and we dock once again. Unfortunately though, for our lovely astronauts, we, well, first of all, have our lovely 5-second madness of of science. And then we have to contemplate the fact that these guys are not coming home anytime soon. They have no fuel, they have some xenon gas, but that'll only be useful if they need to rendezvous with another ship or need to escape Gilly's sphere of influence. Anyway, we've got a whole bunch of science from that. We did transmit some of it, and so we can research a few things. First of all, we can research some Spaceplane Plus parts, which is pretty cool. I'm not gonna lie, Spaceplane Plus, that's where it's at. Then we update. That's right, this game has been updated now to 0.255. Yes, 5, because 5 is the one with Spaceplane Plus into stock KSP. Plus you get the normal kind of crew transfer, and oh, I love it. It's so amazing. Like, oh my goodness, it's just beautiful. Anyway, unfortunately, because of the way it works, obviously I had Spaceplane Plus installed. If I didn't install that, have it installed when I popped it over, a lot of my rockets, a lot of my ships would be deleted because they had parts on them that did not have it in the game, because I would have to uninstall Spaceplane Plus. So what I did was I had the stock game, KSP 0.25, and I also had Spaceplane Plus, which meant that I basically had 2 versions of those parts, because of course Spaceplane Plus is in stock now. Because of this, it means that I have to destroy all the ships with these kind of replicated parts in them. And so, thankfully, the only one that made a big difference was Leo. Now, we didn't have Leo in orbit, we only had that little transfer thing that you just get destroyed, and so I made a stock Leo with stock parts. So this is a completely stock ship now, whoop-de-doo, I love it, and we're going to try flying it in 0.25 for the first time. Now, this is strange. Usually we would have lifted off by now. Now it's kind of feeling a bit weird, not as much lift as before. We have to tilt our nose up quite far to get that kind of lift that we're wanting. Now, I'm not sure whether it's far or whether it's the stock wings, but either something's a bit buggy with far, or something, or perhaps the stock wings don't give as much lift in far as they did with Spaceplane Plus. And so with this design, it's not giving me enough lift to actually get into orbit. I did try. We flew it all the way out to, you know, the other side of this ocean, trying to get up to speed, trying to get up in the height, but the fact of the matter is you just get up and you lose your like all your lift, and I just couldn't do it. You see, I'm having to turn on the LV909s, so a new iteration of Leo has to be designed. You can see that coming in the next episode, which will hopefully be soon. And thank you so much for watching. Subscribe if you will, and have a great day. I'll see you in the next one, guys.